Hey guys, glad to stop by. Today, I thought we'd do some baking, and we're going to do a cake. I haven't done a cake in a while. It is a two-layer cake, and I got the idea from our friend Charlotte here in the neighborhood. She's an awesome person, and yeah, we've become friends. And that's, I love making friends, hands down. And even though she lives like a bazillion miles away from me, so to speak, but anyhow, she had given me this idea for a Dr. Pepper cake, and I had actually I couldn't find the one she sent me, but I found one online that's very similar to it. And after reading several different recipes for Dr. Pepper cake, because there's quite a few, they were all kind of the same. So I thought, okay, well, let's make one. It just sounds cool. I know a while back we did a Coca-Cola cake, and it was phenomenal. You have to like Coke, and this one, which I do, I mean, it's okay. I'm a Mountain Dew person by trade, but Coke's not bad. Dr. Pepper, I used to drink it like it was going out of style when I was younger, and I still enjoy one every now and then. And I thought, why not? Dr. Pepper sounds really good, especially with chocolate. I mean, this is basically a Dr. Pepper infused chocolate cake, and I think it's going to be amazing. That being said, if you're new, welcome. If it's your first video, I hope you check out some of my others. And if you are one of our newer subscribers or returning just to say hi, welcome back, and thank you for coming back, and thank you for subscribing. On that note, don't forget to like, subscribe, and share. That gets us out in the algorithm, keeps us relevant, and it helps our community grow. That's the important thing. We are on our way to village status, and that's kind of cool. And we're creeping up on our end game goal. Our goal for the year, if you didn't know, is 5,000 subscribers. We're a little over 3,500 now, and I think that's incredible. Way more than I thought was going to happen. Comments always welcomed. I try to respond to every single one of them. I hit about 99.8% of all of them at any rate. The only thing I ask is you be nice. It's okay to disagree, with me or somebody in the comments. Just think before you type. Be civil. That's the basis of our neighborhood, is eating. Our little community here is being good neighbors and communicating through food. All aspects of food, whether it be gardening or baking or cooking, or canning, which has been a thing as of late. So that being said, why don't we hop down here to the counter, and we'll get started on this. All right, hold on for me 1 second. Okay, we are down here at the counter. Things we will need to make this with. You will at least need a mixing bowl and a hand mixer. I'm going to use my stand mixer. You're going to need a bowl for dry goods, or your dry ingredients. You are going to need a saucepan, a recipe, and which you'll have. And then we're going to put our oven on at 350 degrees to warm up. So we're going to start with our dry ingredients first. And as always, scale. I always use a scale. That's really important. And I will give you your measurements not only in cups, tablespoons, and teaspoons, but I'll give it to you in grams and milliliters also. Not everybody uses just cups, tablespoons, and teaspoons. And that way everybody can play along, right? Throw my glasses on real quick so I can read. So, with our dry ingredients, and we're gonna run this through a sifter. You don't have to. You could just as easily whisk this if you don't have a sifter or something to sift it with. But I'm going to start right here with 2 cups, 240 grams of just regular old all-purpose flour. And to this, I'm going to add 1 cup of brown sugar, dark brown sugar, and 1 cup of just regular old granulated, everyday put in your coffee sugar. And we're going to put that in there, just like that. Whoop. We are going to add 1.5 teaspoons, 6 grams of baking soda. Our sugar was 200 grams of white granulated sugar, 220 grams of dark brown sugar. We've got 6 grams, 1.5 teaspoons of baking soda. that we'll throw in there. And then we're gonna add 1 cup, which is, oh shoot, I don't remember, 93 grams, no, I'm sorry, 120 grams of cocoa powder. And that's gonna vary a little depending on whose you use, what type you use. Some are lighter, some are denser. Dutch process is a little heavier than just regular unsweetened cocoa, and that's what I usually use. But I've got 1 cup of just regular plain old unsweetened cocoa powder, and then I'm going to take a spoon and I'm going to run this through my sifter. Okay, so we got everything ran through the sifter, and I want to show you, even if you don't have those, we have had this since the turn of the century, and it works just as well. Yeah, you just do your ingredients one at a time. And like I said, yeah, I just happen to have those now, the strainers that I can use to sift with, but same thing, and they're still available everywhere, even though this thing has been around, I think, for 2 generations now, maybe 3. But it still works. Stand the test of time. So now I'm still going to take a whisk. If you're going to whisk this and not sift, the reason why you sift is because, like, the brown sugar and even flour, occasionally regular sugar, depending on your humidity level, can clump. So you want that to not be clumpy when it gets in here, because then it'll be clumpy when you put it into your cake batter. But I'm gonna go ahead and make sure I got everything mixed up real good, and we do. And we're just gonna set this off to the side now. One thing I did forget to mention, when you turn your oven on, before you even start your process, grab 2 9-inch pans, because these are this is a 9-inch cake, and go ahead and get them buttered and floured, and put some parchment paper on the bottom of them. Even if your pans are non-stick, just to ensure, butter, flour, parchment paper. You'll thank yourself down the road, I promise. Been here, done that already. Learn from my mistakes. So, next thing we're going to need to do, now that we set that off to the side, is we're going to take our sauce pot, our sauce pot, and even though somewhere in this world I have a smaller one, my daughter has borrowed it from me, my 10-year-old Abby, and I can't find it anywhere. So we'll use this sauce pot. It's okay, you want a heavier bottom sauce pot anyhow, cooks more even. So we're going to go ahead and get that kicked on real quick. And then in this, here's the Dr. Pepper part. I've got 1 cup, 240 milliliters of Dr. Pepper. And there's the oven, it's warmed up. And to this, I am going to add a 1/2 cup, 93 grams of semi-sweet chocolate chips. I'm going to put that in there. Now, I am going to heat this on low heat. We don't need a high heat or medium high or anything like that. And we're going to stir pretty regularly until our chocolate chips are melted. Once these chocolate chips are melted, we will go ahead and take it off the heat, and then we can move on to the final step before we put it in the pans. All right, so it took all of like 2 minutes. Our chocolate is now melted and into our Dr. Pepper. See right there. So now all we're going to do is take this off, set it to the side, just like we did our dry. And you want to make sure your chocolate's all melted, and combined with your Dr. Pepper. You don't have to worry about the fizz of the Dr. Pepper. What the Dr. Pepper does is adds the Dr. Pepper flavor to it, but it also helps with the moisture of the cake. Now this cake is going to be pretty moist anyhow, but it kind of gives it that flavor. Well, it doesn't kind of, it does give it that flavor along with the chocolate, but it helps keep that moisture level up. So the next thing we need to do, and here you can use just a bowl and a hand mixer, or if you have a stand mixer, paddle attachment. We are going to add 2 large eggs, and that's 100 grams worth of egg. We are going to add 1 cup of buttermilk. Now with buttermilk, you can, if you don't have any buttermilk, you can make buttermilk. I want to say it's, in this case, it would be 1 cup of regular milk with a teaspoon of lemon juice. and then just let it sit for about 5 minutes and you will have buttermilk. If I'm wrong on that, I'll put it right here, I promise. And but it's 240 milliliters, 1 cup of buttercream. Now I use powdered buttercream. I keep it in the fridge. It's good for like ever. Once you open it, it's good for about 3 or 4 months. And then, but it sits on a shelf for a minute, and that way I don't have to use it all up at once. Next thing I'm going to put in here is 1 cup, 240 milliliters of vegetable oil. Just regular old veggie oil. And then the last thing I'm going to put in here is 1.5 teaspoons, 6 grams of vanilla extract. And then we are going to let this run for about 2 minutes. You know, at a good medium pace. We want to get it very well combined. All right, we let that mix for a couple of minutes. Now I'm just going to turn it down to low speed. You know, if your hand mixer, low speed I think is 1. In this case, my mixer has a stir, which is the lowest speed. And what I'm going to do is I am going to slowly pour this Dr. Pepper and chocolate mix into the batter and let this get all mixed in with it. All right, we got our chocolate and Dr. Pepper in there on low. I let it run for about an additional 30 seconds to a minute. Now, with it still being on low, I'm going to slowly add in my dry mix. All right, just let it go in a little bit of time and get in there. All right, we got our dry goods in there. We've been mixing on low. So now what we're going to do is we're going to turn this up to about a medium speed, which on my stand mixer is about 4. And we're going to let this run for about another 2 minutes. We just want to make sure everything is well combined. All right, we let that mix for a couple minutes. So the next thing we got to do is get our spatula here, our rubber spatula here, and we're just going to kind of clean everything up real quick, as we're going to give this a good just once through with the spatula, because I didn't really stop to stir anything to make sure we were all well incorporated, but there wasn't really a whole lot until we got to the dry goods to make sure that we were incorporated. But as I make a mess on the counter, you guys ever make messes on your counter? I make messes on my counter all the time. But we're going to get through there, make sure we don't have any lumps or clumps, and we don't, so we are in good shape. So let me get this mixer out of here and get our cake pans, and in this case my scale, and we'll get this into the pans. Alright, so got the mixer out of the way, and like I said, I'm using my scale so that way I know I've got pretty much an even amount across the board. If you don't have a scale, I highly recommend you get one. But if you don't, that's quite alright. Just, you have to eyeball it and make sure you get about an even amount. But you want to make sure it's as close to even as possible. You know, that way they bake evenly. You don't want to be pulling one out of the oven and then the other one has to go another 5 minutes or, you know, something like that. And I know from cake experience, it's going to be right around 600 grams. But we'll go ahead and get 550 and get them in here nice and even. Okay, we got them in their respective pans. Now, mine turned out to be 800 grams each, exactly. I say that with a grain of salt though, because I've had several cakes that I've made over and over again that never quite turn out to be the exact same amount in grams. So if you are using a scale, just get them even. Next time around it could be 758 or 770 or whatever per pan. It just, for whatever reason, it seems to work out that way, at least for me. Alright, so let me go ahead and get these in the oven real quick. Alright, we got them in the oven. So we'll go ahead and get our timer set, and we're looking at 30 to 35 minutes. It's really going to vary on your oven, but roughly 30-35 minutes. Your oven may run hotter than mine, may run colder than mine. My oven may run hotter or colder than the person who wrote this recipe. which was, by the way, Peggy Trowbridge Philpone. I probably just butchered that, but it was in oh god, I can't think of the name. Spruce Eats website, and a wonderful website. If you've never seen it or looked at it, I highly recommend it. But but that's where I got this recipe from. It's really important to let people know, especially when you're doing it publicly, even a demonstration of the recipe, where the recipe originally came from. And then in this case, Spruce Eats is an absolutely amazing website. Lots of good stuff on there, not only just baking but cooking, all kinds of stuff. But anyhow, 30 to 35 minutes, and we'll toothpick test it. You know, that way, you know, toothpick into the center. If it comes out clean, by clean I mean no batter, crumb is good, batter is bad. We'll know it's done and we can take it out of the oven. I'll see you here in 1 second. Okay, so our cakes are cool. And now all we have to do is make our icing real quick. And it's a pretty straightforward, almost buttercream icing. This one's a little different. It's got some shortening in it. I'm using butter flavored Crisco. But if you don't have butter flavored shortening, that's fine. It's just a preferred. That way you still get that buttery taste and it doesn't hit so much with the shortening. What the shortening does is it keeps it smooth. And since we have to keep this cake refrigerated, you know, it helps the icing to stay soft, because you know, when you put a cake in the fridge and it's all buttercream icing, it can get really firm really fast. This kind of slows that down a little bit. So we'll go ahead. I've got 6 tablespoons, 84 grams of unsalted butter. And then I've got 3/4 of a cup, 165 grams of the shortening. Also, if you didn't want to use the shortening, you just want to use butter, it's the exact same amounts. So you would use essentially 1 cup and 2 tablespoons, right? No, 1 cup and 2 tablespoons of butter instead of this mix here. It's an equal ratio, and the butter is room temperature, well, softened. Leave it sit out for about a half hour. And what we're going to do now is we're just going to simply cream this. And while it's creaming, we can go ahead and we're going to mix our powdered sugar, which is 4 cups at 460 grams, to a 1/4 cup of cocoa powder at 23 grams. We're gonna go ahead and dump that in with our powdered sugar. And then as soon as I remember what I did with my whisk, which is right here, we will go ahead and get this whisk together. Okay, so we've got our butter and shortening creamed. I mean, it's heavily creamed, and we've got our cocoa and our our powdered sugar mix. Sorry, my brain is just 7 different kinds of fried, I guess, at the moment. It's getting later in the evening, but I really want a piece of this cake. We worked very hard on it. I mean, not really, but it's actually been a very easy cake. And we're gonna get that off there. Get that nice and smoothed out. That way we make sure we don't have any big chunks in there. So now what we're going to do is we're going to take that powdered sugar and cocoa that we just whisked together, and we are going to start mixing it in with the shortening and sugar. And we're going to do it 1 cup at a time while the mixer's on, and we're going to have it on low so that way we don't blow it back out into our face. And we're just going to pour it in a little bit at a time here until we get the whole 4 1/4 cups worth of powder in. Okay, so we got our powdered sugar in there. We're going to go ahead and turn this up to medium. while that's beaten, I have got a quarter cup, 60 milliliters of Dr. Pepper. I have 1.5 teaspoons, 6 grams of vanilla. I'm going to put that in there with it. And we will give that a quick whisk with my slightly dirty whisk. And then we're just going to pour this in kind of slow. And then we're going to let this mix for about 1 or 2 minutes. We want this to get light and fluffy. Alright, so we've let that run for a couple of minutes. And I think we are in good shape as far as that goes. But what we want to do now is just go ahead and give our bowl a good scrape. You know, we want to make sure it's good and smooth. Everything's, you know, in good shape. Alright, got the mixer out of the way, and here is our frosting. Yeah, now I personally think it looks a little light, but that's what the recipe called for, so that's what we will do. I am going to give it a quick taste test though, just to make sure it's up to par. That's actually pretty good. And I've you know, scraped it down, made sure we didn't have any big lumps or anything like that in there. Although I don't think we should. I mean, the shortening in and of itself is already pretty smooth. The butter was probably a little more than softened. So now we'll just go ahead and I'll get my wheel. We're going to get our first cake layer right here. And I mean, and I won't hold back. I broke it. You know, that's okay. You know why? Because it fits right back in there. We're going to cover it with icing and nobody's ever going to know, right? It's okay. Hey, you're going to, even professionals make mistakes. Okay? And I can attest to this just because, I mean, I run a restaurant. And, you know, I can honestly say I've been making pizzas for 20 years. 20. And I still make mistakes. I still have mistakes. Things happen. That's part of human nature. Even the best professional will make a mistake. What makes them a professional is knowing how to fix it. So, and that's important. So what we'll do is I'll go ahead and get this on here, and then I'm just going to smooth out this layer here, and then we can stick our second layer on top, our second cake layer on top of this. Okay, so got our in between center of the two cakes done on there. Now here's a question for you: do you prefer a lot of icing in the center or just a little bit of icing? I am more of a little bit of icing person, but I know I know a fair amount of people that like a lot of icing in there. All right, so went ahead and I got my top on there, right? And I'm just gonna make sure it's good and even. And if you're a little uneven on your cake, it's not that big a deal, because with the icing in the center, you can always shove it down to make it even and balance it, or you can cut it flush. If this were per se for a customer, I would probably cut it flush, but it's just for us, you know, and that way, yeah, and it's not that uneven at all. And like I said, I just evened it out right there. But you know, and you got those gaps there on the side. That's okay, because we're just gonna fill those in. So now we're just gonna take our icing, and I'm gonna plop it on the top here, and I'm gonna do it near the outer edges, so that way I can take it down the sides. And when I take it down the sides, now you can do this a couple ways. I'm not going to fuss with a crumb coat today. If you were so inclined, you could do a crumb coat on this, and what that means is you'll do a real thin layer of icing on here. I mean, super thin layer of icing, and that'll hold any crumbs. You put it in the fridge, let it sit for about anywhere from 20 minutes to a half hour, sometimes longer. And what it does is it firms up the icing, and then you come back out and you do another layer of icing, and you don't have to worry about getting any chocolate cake in your icing, so to speak. But you know, today we're just not going to do that. And I don't really feel like this has got that much crumb to it. All right, we got our ice. And I did stick her back in the fridge for about 15 minutes. It got powerfully hot in this kitchen. And I mean, if I was sweating, then I know this cake was doing the same. So we went ahead and put her back in the put her in the fridge for 15 minutes. And that way it can calm down a little bit, cool off, and catch a moment. But I think she turned out quite nice. Nothing fancy, but it doesn't have to be, right? Not everything has to be over the top. We just want to enjoy cake, and I think it looks beautiful just the way it is. So we'll go ahead and get us a piece cut. Doesn't have to be a big piece. Yeah, I'm trying to watch my girlish figure. I mean, not really, but it is late, and later in the evening, and I really don't need a giant sliver of cake to, at this very moment, so to speak. So we will actually grab, you'll work. Holy cannoli, I actually had a piece come all the way out without missing the tip of it. Yes! And on the fine china to boot. Look at that. Isn't that just beautiful? I think so. I think it looks gorgeous myself, but I'm a little biased. I mean, it came out nice and clean all the way around. Yeah. Ready for your shot, Mr. DeVille? Oh yeah. Although I don't think you could actually see down in there, but that's alright. So now, all we have to do is give this fine American beauty a try. A Dr. Pepper cake. Alright, let's give her a try. So excited. That is devilishly good. Devilishly good. It tastes like a chocolate cake with a hint of Dr. Pepper, but it's almost like a chocolate spice cake. It's quite wonderful, and the cake itself is very moist, very tender. This could be dangerous. Very dangerous. And dare I say, because I mean, I liked the Coca-Cola cake. It was good. I almost like this better. That is a good cake. Sorry, it's so moist. I'm struggling with it. Oh, give this a try. You won't be disappointed. I think even if you don't like Dr. Pepper, which I know so few people that don't like, that do like, I know so many people that do like Dr. Pepper. I know they would enjoy this cake. This would be one to take to a party, or have a gathering for. Or take to a gathering for. Or even a nice quick dinner, dessert for dinner, because it didn't take long to make it. Not at all. It was pretty straightforward, very simple. Not a whole lot of ingredients. And most of it you should have, in your pantry more than likely. But I would definitely give this a try. I think the only thing I had to go and buy was the Dr. Pepper. We just don't keep soda here in the house, or pop or cola, depending on where you're at in the world. Yeah, you won't be disappointed. And let me know if you do try this. Hands down, I would like to hear what your thoughts are, because like I said, I really like it. I think that is a great cake. You can either leave me a comment down below, find me on Facebook as always, whether it be through the group or just me. It's not like I hide anything. My name is Brian Smith. I introduce myself all the time. But either way, let me know. I'll be curious to hear what you have to say. So Saturday we'll do some canning. We're gonna do another pie filling. We're gonna do blackberry pie filling. That'll give us in our repertoire, our arsenal, the apple pie filling that I already have in the canning playlist, along with the blueberry that we did 2 weeks ago, and then we'll have this blackberry in there. And I think that will be a good start in an arsenal for pie fillings. And then I don't know what we'll do after that, but we'll figure it out. So anyhow, until Saturday for pie filling, I love you. I love you very much, and I mean that from the bottom of my heart. Tell somebody else that you love them and you love them very much. They may need to hear it. It's going to make them feel good and make them smile either way it goes. It's going to make you feel good to tell them that. I guarantee it. You'll smile also. I am positive. You make them some of this Dr. Pepper cake, you're guaranteed to see smiles out of everybody. And if you invite some friends and neighbors and, you know, family over to enjoy some of this with, it's going to be an amazing party and hours of conversation and camaraderie. So, till Saturday for canning, I love you, and I'll see you then. All right? See you later. Bye-bye.